Jay here, the No Spoon Podcast. Thank you for checking out my channel. If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your post notifications so that you don't miss out on the latest content. Also, like and share with as many people as possible. And if you got an opinion or something that you just want to add to the conversation, I want to hear about it down in the comments section. Until then, enjoy the video. Jay here, this is the No Spoon Podcast, where we discuss culture, politics, and common sense. Thank you guys for tapping into this channel and checking out this latest video. Before we go further, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on your post notifications so you can get the latest content that we're dropping every single week. The live show is going to be back. Work has made things kind of hectic, but I'm back at it. You know what I'm saying? It's not going to stop. That's why I'm trying to bring you these videos, these shorts, on Instagram, dropping reels all the time. Always just trying to stay up on the latest things, man. So before we begin, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, share this with as many people as possible, man. And all that is greatly appreciated. That's how we stay afloat. That's how we stay above the algorithm. That's how we stay above the Gestapo. You know what I'm talking about. Before I get into this, man, I just want to say, I initially did this video a few days ago, right? And I know how this goes, man. You got to stay on top of things, and news gets old really fast. And I know that we're all kind of burnt out on Kanye, right? He got what he wanted with his whole bunch of attention. And of course, there's other people that can say other different things. And I'm going to kind of get into that here in this reaction video here. But I really just felt like there was a lot of things that need to be talked about. I was going to let it go. Really what happened is I recorded it. And then when I went to go edit it later that night, I realized that the mute button was on the mic. Man, rookie mistake, right? The mute button was on the mic, so I didn't have no audio, nothing, except for the videos that I was playing. But what good is that? You know what I mean? The whole point is play the video and then react to it, and you couldn't hear nothing. So that was that. I just had to scrap it and let it go. And then I was kind of contemplating and man, am I going to still do this? And I felt like it was time to do it because I think that there was some really important things that needs to be talked about, right? That need to be said, that we need to get out there on the table. And like I said, when you doing this YouTube game, you have to stay current, and news gets old fast. But I think that the difference between what you're gonna find at this channel compared to the other channels is that the nuance. Obviously you guys have watched thousands of Kanye videos. You can just search YouTube and scroll down there, and there's people talking about his latest antics, the White Lives Matter shirt, the Tucker Carlson interview, now he's banned from Twitter since that happened. He's been labeled anti-Semitic. The Jews are coming after him, all these different things, right? You've heard all of it. But I think the take that I'm coming with here on this channel is much different. It's not like something you've heard. So although you might look at this and be like, oh, another Kanye video, I just encourage you to stick around, because it's going to be presented in a way that you haven't really heard before. And I think it's more nuanced, and it's more prevalent to your own circumstances and what we all going through here. And I think there's a lot that you can get from this. Before I say this, before I get into it, let me say this about Kanye West, right? Obviously there's a lot of people that say he's crazy, he's seeking attention, he's a genius, he's a mastermind, he's self-hating, he's racist, he's all these different things. He's anti-Semitic, throw that up in there now. So that's what he said the other day, right? Let me just say this, my own personal opinion, I don't believe he's any of those things, right? I don't believe he's crazy. I don't believe that he's a racist. I don't believe that he hates himself or he hates his people. I don't believe any of that. I also don't believe he's a genius. I don't believe he's playing 4D chess, and we've all heard that before, right? I don't believe that he's a mastermind. I don't think he's playing everybody. I think the only thing that he really does well, and that he's a genius of, is getting attention, and knows how to keep the algorithms going in his favor so that he gets that attention, whether it's good or bad. I think he's very good at that, right? You could say he's a genius at it. You could say he's innovative at that. I just think that he has thick skin and he doesn't care about being criticized. Because that's really what what that whole thing comes down to. Like certain things, when it comes to getting attention, his wife is the same way. Like she learned the same thing, right? Look at, she made her fame on a sex tape, so she obviously doesn't care what people think. She's a billionaire now. She doesn't care, right? You have a lot of people. There's a lot of people when it comes to fame and fortune and money and all these different things that come with it, that they're just not willing to endure the criticism. They're not willing to endure the shaming. They're not willing to endure all the different things that a lot of these people put themselves through in order to get that. They are. And Kanye's one of, I mean, he's just one of those people. Like, he doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be in that situation, if you want to be in that limelight, you're going to have to be able to take the heat. And he can. And so he has thick enough skin. I think that's just what he's good at. I think there's a lot of people that are good at that. You know what I mean? But there's most people aren't. And that's just reality. So that's my take. That's just how my personal feeling towards him, right? But when I look at this interview that he did with Tucker Carlson, to me, there's so much in there that's important and relevant and kind of explains what we're up against here. You know what I mean? Like what we're really dealing with as far as the culture, as far as politics, as far as a mindset, right? This is really a mental game. And some would argue a spiritual game. Like, it's really deeper than just what we see in front of us. But the point is, what we're seeing in front of us leads us in a certain direction, and that certain direction empowers certain people. That's what's going on here. So I want to play some clips from this video. I mean, from the interview that he did, and then kind of like break them down a little bit, and kind of just show like there's some really interesting things. Some things I'm just gonna play. I might sit back and say nothing because it's just interesting to me, right? But let me just say this, but like with Kanye, right? I think a lot of the things it's also about circumstances. The circumstances that he's in. See, you and I live as regular people. We go to the grocery store, we don't have an issue with anybody. We go to work, we don't have an issue with anybody. We might have different political beliefs than people. We might believe things not to be as the media tells us or as celebrities tell us, right? And it's cool. You know what I mean? Like, in reality, this is a reality, in day-to-day reality. Yeah, some people might look at you and be like, oh, you think this way, or you have this way of thinking. It's not the same as mine, and yada, yada, yada. But at the end of the day, most people, they're not really going to, at least I don't experience it. Like, I never really get confronted on my political beliefs. Like, nobody really says anything to me, you know, like, and I'll say things, and I'm pretty vocal to a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really care. Like, I'll tell you how I feel about a situation, because like at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, right is right and wrong is wrong, and you can explain that all day long and try to argue that, but it is what it is. So I don't really care about what other people think about how I feel or how I see things. Like, it's based on facts. So if it ain't based on facts, then, well, we're not really talking about anything. But when you live in a bubble, and I always say this, like, people ask me all the time, like, you think like LeBron or you think like Jay-Z or Beyonce and them, they really believe this stuff? And I think, yeah, I think that they do, because they're in the echo chamber and this bubble of people just throwing around these same things over and over again. Like, yeah, I think they do believe it. I think they do believe that, because that's what everybody's validating their opinion. They're surrounded by yes men who are not going to disagree with you or challenge any of your beliefs, because you bringing the bag to the table, for one. And two, everybody's coming up under the same script. And the people that control it, the people that have the money, the people that are funding projects, the people that are signing contracts, they have an interest in this type of ideology being pushed on people. So nobody's going to disturb that. Everybody's going to go along with the narrative, because everybody's trying to chase that bag. You see what I'm saying? So I think they do believe it, because they don't challenge themselves to go outside of that. And when I hear Kanye talking, right, I just think he's a person that willfully got into that arena, that knew what he was doing, knew what he was giving up. He married a Kardashian. Come on now. Like you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. And now once you're there, you're having this kind of internal battle with yourself on what is right and what is wrong. You know what was right and what was wrong, but you chose to get the fame, you chose to get the money, you chose to get everything that comes with that, and you knew what you had to do to get there. You had to sacrifice the truth. You had to sacrifice your own mental well-being. And so sometimes you come off sounding kind of crazy. And this is what they say about him. I'm gonna play this part. Like this is one of the beginning parts of the interview, and you judge for yourself.
Lives Matter t-shirt you brought out at Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah.
Why did you do that, and what did it mean?
You know, I do certain things from a feeling. I just channel the energy. It just feels right. It's using a gut instinct, a connection with God, and just brilliance. You know, like as if you asked like Tanya Harding how she did the triple flip or the triple spin. Yeah. She was in so much practice that when it was time for her to skate in a competitive format, it just happened. Like it happened outside of practice. It happened in the real format, and that's what's happening. Is God is like preparing us for the real battles, and we are in a battle with the media. Like the majority of the media has a godless agenda.
Now I agree with that last part, right? The media does have a godless agenda, but everything up to then, I'm not saying I disagree with it, but it just sounds crazy, right? Like, what are you talking about? It comes from a feeling. It comes from a feeling of brilliance. Tanya Harding and all this triple backflip and all this or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you don't really make sense. And I'm not saying that he's, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like I said, when you're in a bubble, he's like the emperor, the kid in the Emperor with No Pants, and you're the only one saying something. It comes out kind of crazy. And you have to be driven crazy if everybody around you is saying the same thing. Like if I was in like a super liberal, super leftist type of environment where everybody thought a certain way and everybody was telling me like men can get pregnant, pedophilia is okay, all these different crazy ideas that people are coming up with, at a certain point it would kind of wear on you, and I would start not making sense to people. I probably wouldn't even make sense to myself. And I feel like that's kind of the environment that he's in. And it just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm like looking at him and listening to him, and you're like, what are you talking about, man? But like I said, that's the kind of game, that's what you in. That's what you playing into. He talks a lot about like influences, right? And how people were there to influence and having to think a certain way. And there were people there to influence you to think a certain way. It's interesting. This part right here came up, and he doesn't really get into it, which is interesting to me. But I want to play it and then talk about it.
And told me that Chris and Kim had called him because he had influence inside of the Black community, and had called him to say, to get him to influence people to take the vaccination. And I don't have an opinion on that. I just want to state that as a flat statement.
I thought that was interesting because it's like, I think he was going somewhere. And I think what happened was he was talking about something and then realized I shouldn't be talking about this. Because if you notice, halfway through that little snippet right there, he kind of catches himself. And then I think as he's talking, he's trying to come up with a way to get out of it. And it just came out so awkward and weird that he just said something like, I don't have an opinion, and move on to the next one. So all this like Kanye is outside of the matrix and he's trying to, man, look, there's certain forces that he will stop for, in my opinion. Like he will put the brakes on. And we've already seen how people feel about this situation. And so for him to get to that point, I feel like, man, he didn't want to go there. But it's interesting that there are people, they just make phone calls, man. And I don't think it's like so like devious to where they're like sitting in the basement trying to come up with plans on how we can manipulate people. I just think it's like, hey man, get these people to think like this, or hey, you know, use your influence to help me out. You're my people, I'm your people. Like it's like me calling you and saying, hey man, share this with some people, get some people to listen to my podcast. And then somebody who doesn't agree with me is being like, oh, see, he's trying to manipulate people and influence people. I think that's more along the lines of the way it is. I don't really get into this whole like everybody is on some like conniving stuff, and I think that there is some manipulation going on at the top, but most of these people are just pawns. Even Kanye, even Kim, even though they got billions of dollars and they might be rubbing shoulders with some of these really powerful people, I just think that they're pawns over everything else. He talked about like his father. This was really interesting to me on how he was talking about he had a strained relationship with his father. We already know he had this really close relationship and bond with his mom, but it's almost like he's starting to realize now that that relationship with his father was kind of not the lack of the relationship with his father was kind of due to some outside forces. So I'm gonna play this clip and then kind of elaborate on, because it's interesting how this kind of played out here.
In person that I know, and we actually have a strained relationship because I was taken from him, because my mom was an actress, so she was a liberal, and my dad would see certain things and say, you know, we should do it this way, we should do it that way, and the people got around my mom and pulled her away. Much like, you know, Kim is a Christian, but she has people who want her to go to Interview magazine and put her ass out while she's a 40-something-year-old multi-billionaire with 4 black children. And this is how fashion wants to, how they want to present her. So I know if you give these,
Yeah, I thought that was interesting, right? And that he linked that to his mom and Kim. Like, they're in this industry, and there's people in this industry that want you to think a certain way and be a certain way and do a certain things. And I think that you see the conflict there between his mom and his dad. Like, his dad probably had a more conservative outlook on life, probably had a more logical outlook on life, probably saw things from the benefit of the whole instead of just the benefit of right here and right now. But people came, outside forces, they come and they manipulate and they say, let's do it like this, let's do it like that, don't listen to that. You know, it's kind of like what we see going on in the world today, like with this feminist movement, and they just kind of demonizing men and demonizing masculinity, and they're trying to drive a wedge through the family by ostracizing the man, ostracizing the father, and making the father out to be the bad guy and demonizing him and vilifying him. And that's kind of what we see going on. And I'm going to do another video on that, because there's something that I see going on within the mainstream media they're really going after these people, especially men and especially fathers. And he mentioned that right there. There's something else that he also talked about. I'm going to let this clip play real quick about influencers and people that come in and they influence them.
Dad, why'd you never come to get us? And that's when he told me that she was told that. You know, there's so many things that are put in Kim's head. You know, they bring influencers. Like, no one ever knew where Corey Gamble came from. No one in the fashion world knows where Gabby came from. These people were practically made in a laboratory, in my opinion. And one of the things that they're really good at doing is being nice and being likable. And what they do is, for people that have some form of influence, whether it's an educated black woman like my mother that became the head of the English department at Chicago State University, or whether it's the most influential white woman on the planet, being my ex-wife, they have people that are around them at all times telling them what to be afraid of. It's like not what to do or say specifically, it's what to be afraid of. And if you have a person that isn't afraid of them, you know, like a Russell Brand or Candace Owens,
right.
or it's not that we have to agree
Right. No.
with this, but
They're not afraid.
they're not afraid to state what their opinion is.
You see, he's right there, right? Um, these people have an interest in people thinking a certain way, right? They have an interest in this stuff. And like he said, if you're not afraid of them, and what the fear is, here's the fear. The fear is you will be ostracized. You will not get your projects done, whether that be a book, a record deal, your tour, a TV show, podcast, a special on Netflix, a Hulu special, all these different things. These people control all that. And when you're in the entertainment business, if you don't play the game that they want you to play, and in this case, it's about going along with the politics, it's about going along with the ideology, it's about going on with the cultural and the social issues that they want put out there and they want propagated to the people, then you don't get any say-so in Hollywood. That's what he's talking about. Like, what you need to be afraid of. Don't talk about certain things, right? Don't say this, don't say that. I don't care if you feel that way. I think that there's a lot of people in Hollywood and in all throughout sports, entertainment, that they don't agree with what's going on. I believe most people don't. But they know that they can't say these things, because if they do, then the people that sign their checks won't be provided any more checks. Serious, like that. I really believe that. And so a lot of times when I hear people putting out this stuff, like, you see these people, they going super hard in the paint for a cause that doesn't benefit anybody, but they're pushing it and they're pushing these narratives. It's because they're trying to get something done, and they're trying to appease the people that sign the checks. Let me show this one other part right here, where he talks about the mindset and how you have to think, right? And how the controversy and why the controversy over the White Lives Matter thing. Watch.
You don't have to give an explanation, but as a leader, you do.
Yes, I think that's right.
So the answer to why I wrote White Lives Matter on a shirt is because they do. It's the obvious thing.
Yeah. Why do you think that's so? And I assume the implication is, of course, all lives matter because they're lives, because God created them.
Yeah.
Why do you think that would be considered controversial?
Because the same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have. My dad grew up as a military brat, and his family moved around, but they were based mostly in Delaware. And at the time, if they weren't the only black family, they were one of the few. And he would be discriminated against because he was black. So by the time he got into college, he would be discriminated against. He went to a black college, he would be discriminated against because they said he talked too white.
You see, that's exactly what he's talking about, is that there's a way that you have to think. Like, they put you in this box. Let me go ahead and break this down. And I think I'm going to be done. Let me just check to see if there's any more that I want to talk about. Not really, but I'm gonna just break this down. And this is what I think is the most important part. And this is it. This is called the No Spoon Podcast for a reason, right? It's in reference to the Matrix movies. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about the scene, where it comes from. If you don't know, a lot of people do. I played a clip from it in one of these videos later, and people said, oh, that's where the No Spoon comes from, right? So for those of you that don't know, let me just say it. I'm not going to play the clip from the Matrix because I don't want to get the whole copyright violation and all that stuff. So I'm going to just kind of explain it. There's a scene in the movie, right? Now remember, humanity has been enslaved. We are all asleep. The machines are using our energy to fuel themselves and to keep themselves alive, right? In order to keep us asleep and pacify us, so to speak, they are running a computer-generated program into our brains, right? It is called the Matrix. It is the world that we see around us. It is everything that we live in, but it all exists in your mind. It's not real. The reality is you are living in a pod somewhere, being sucked at, the energy being sucked from you in order to fuel the machines. That's reality. The computer simulation is in your brain. You think you're going to work, you think you're going to school, you think you're going to sleep and waking up the next day, but you're not. That's all just something that's playing out in your brain. So Neo, played by Keanu Reeves, he is supposed to be the one that he escaped the Matrix. He escaped that computer-generated program. And he's back into the real world, but he goes back into the Matrix, right? The computer-generated program. He goes back into it, and he goes and visits the Oracle, and the Oracle is supposed to tell him if he's the one. She's just like shaman type of, woman or whatever, right? And he's sitting in the waiting room, and there's a little kid in there that's also waiting to see her. And the little kid has a spoon in his hand, and he's holding the spoon like this, and the spoon is bending, but he's not touching it. He's just holding it, and the spoon is bending on its own. And the implication is that he's moving it with his mind. So Neo tries to do it, and he's focusing and concentrating, and nothing happens. And the kid tells him, don't try to bend the spoon because that's impossible. Only realize the truth. And Neo says, what truth? And he said, there is no spoon. And then you realize that it's not the spoon that bends, but it's your own mind. See, what Neo had to realize is that it was fake. The spoon was part of the Matrix. He was inside the Matrix. It was just playing out in his brain. And once he realized that it was all fake, then he can transcend the Matrix. That he couldn't be bound by it because it was in his brain. It's like a dream. You can fly in your dreams. You can get hurt in your dreams and nothing happens to you. You don't die. Like, it's the same type of thing. But what we see going on today is the same type of thing. It's a Matrix. But the Matrix is not necessarily a computer-generated program. What it is this facade, and it's a veil that's been placed in front of us in order to get us to think and then ultimately act a certain way. And that certain way falls under the control of people who want to benefit from it. They want you to be up under this veil where you don't really see what's going on, but you give them all the power and all the control, and that's what they're trying to do. So there's a way that we think, and like I said, there are three major areas of influences, and these three major areas of influences are academia, media, and entertainment. Those three, the Holy Trinity or Unholy Trinity of the Matrix: academia, media, and entertainment. Why? Academia is the hub that we all have to go through, or all the major players go through, right? You want to go work for a big corporation, you want to go work for big tech, you want to go work for big pharma, you want to go work for the media, you want to get inside of Hollywood. Everybody goes to college. You want to be an educator and teach the next generation, you go to college. So in college, they teach you how to think, right? They tell you what is racist, what is homophobic, what is sexist, what is misogynist, what is masculine, what is feminine, what is right and what is wrong, what is moral, what is immoral. They tell you all these different things, right? And they have an agenda with this stuff. So everybody that goes through there, they have been filtered through, and their brains have been washed, their ideology has been clean, and now it fits their narrative. So this is why you see all these people go to big tech, big pharma, media, entertainment, and they all think the same way because they've all been through the same hub of indoctrination that is academia, right? Academia then brings people into media. Media is important because it gives validation. Now, the ultimate validation is academia because that's where the so-called experts are, right? But most people don't go, like, the target is the mindless, clueless person that's walking through life that has no idea what's going on. They're the people that are being controlled and manipulated. They don't have a clue about anything, right? They're the people that are the most dangerous. They're the people that vote in these people that are power-hungry tyrants, and they don't think a second thing about them, right? Those are the people that are targeted. Those people don't search academia. They don't go and look for research papers and try to sift through it. They don't do none of that. But if somebody says an expert, doctor, PhD, so-and-so said this, it's good as gold. They don't question none of it, right? Media is the same way. Media adds validation. If somebody says they saw something on CNN, then CNN is true and right, and you can't dispute that, because why else would they put it on the news? Media has the same type of narrative. You have to think the same way as the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all these different hubs of legacy mainstream media. So people listen to that. The third is entertainment, and that's where these mindless, clueless voters and people in society that are easily controlled and manipulated, that's where they get the majority of their information. So celebrity so-and-so says this is true, and they back it up because they said they got that from CNN, and CNN backs that up because they got that from academia, and therefore mindless voter, mindless whatever you want to call him, just NPC is what they call him now, doesn't care. They believe it to be true. And anybody that comes with a thinking mind goes, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. They go, you're crazy. You mean to tell me that LeBron James, CNN, and Harvard are all wrong? You're crazy. That's how this works. That's the matrix. Right? That's the matrix that's over your head, like he was just explaining. You have to think a certain way, and they do that with certain categories. They put us all in categories based on race, based on gender, based on sexual orientation, based on ethnicity, based on all these different things that make no sense and it really don't matter in the real world. They don't value character. They don't value morality. They don't value any of those things. They value what's on the surface, because easily mindless, non-thinking, NPC type voter type of people, they don't care about that. They don't want to think twice. They would rather get high, go to the club, party, watch TV, and go to sleep. Wake up and do it all over again and go right along with the narrative like sheep. You tell me to put on a mask, I put on a mask. You tell me to get a shot, I get a shot. You tell me to be mad at these people because they don't listen, I'm going to be mad at those people they don't listen. Why else would Google censor it? Because it's wrong. That's how they think. But when you break free of that and you start looking at things differently, and like I said, Kanye's in the middle of all that. He's in the epicenter of that type of thinking. And so all I think that he does is every once in a while kind of go is a glitch. And he starts going, this doesn't make any sense. And he starts saying things. And then the other day he said some things about the Jews. They don't want to go down that path either. They don't. I don't know how bad he wants to go down that path. I know you can talk about all type of things, right? But you better not talk about who's funding this stuff. You better not talk about who the financiers are. You better not talk about who's bankrolling the whole operation. That'll get you shut down. You want to talk about wars? You want to talk about all these different things that are going, these culture wars, actual wars. Who's benefiting from that? Who's making money off of that? Who's profiteering off of all this stuff? You better not talk about those people. We already saw that. I played a clip the other day about Dave Smith when he was talking about how the Occupy movement and the Tea Party movement and how they were basically all talking about the same thing. They all revolved around the bank bailouts and all this stuff, and how these people just they bottom out. You can't talk about them. You can't. You can't say Rothschild. Ooh, you can't say that. Right? That's the path that we're going on. And I don't know how deep he wants to go into it, but a lot of us are awake. A lot of us ain't in the matrix. It's easy for me to talk about people that are free people, man. It's easy for me to talk with free people. When I talk to people that are in the matrix and they stuck there all day and they just going along with the next thing and going along with the narrative, I look at them like they're a lost cause. I don't care. Like I say what it is, and I just be like, argue with me if you want to. But I'm free, man. I think how I want to think, and I think with common sense and logic, and that's what they don't want you to think. They rather you be stuck on this emotional stuff so that you can be easily manipulated and led astray, and that's what they do. But that's how the matrix operates, off of emotions. They never operate off facts and logic, right? That's how it works. So Kanye versus the Matrix, I don't think that he's doing this consciously. I just think that it exposes itself. once somebody breaks the algorithm or goes out of step. But if enough of us start going out of step, if we start supporting people that do speak out, like this show and other shows and people like that and other channels, we become the mainstream. And like I said, man, I don't care. Like I've talked about this before. The only thing I don't like about when people do stuff like this and he made the White Lives Matter shirts, I think it waters down the message because people jump on board that I don't think are really sincere. But my values are going to be the same regardless whether I'm the only person thinking about it or everybody thinks like that. What's true is true and what's real is real and what's fake is fake. Right? So again, subscribe to the channel. We're going to give you the real. We going outside the matrix. We constantly breaking it. We constantly challenging it. We constantly showing what the real is, man. And so this is a place where you get culture, politics, and common sense. My name is Che. This is No Spoon Podcast.